Welcome to West USA Weekly, the podcast, your go-to source for everything real estate in Phoenix, Arizona. We're breaking down market trends, local insights, and the moves that matter most to Valley agents. Interviews, tips, and the latest from one of Arizona's top brokerages, all in one place. Let's dive in.
Good morning, West USA. Welcome to another edition of our Monday morning podcast. We may or may not be having technical difficulties. So
everything's good right now.
I'm just saying, 12 years we've been doing this. You'd think after 12 years we might have this dialed in.
It's every day we do. Every week is my first day.
Yeah, but it's all new equipment all the time.
All righty. Well, let's jump into a little sneak peek of what we got coming up today. Todd Menard is here to give us a look at the numbers. Matt Baker is here to give us our mortgage minute. I'm going to share 3 things buyers should know before making an offer. And then Claudia Ewen is going to stop by and talk about open house horrors. I got so many. This is great. We're just gonna talk about open houses, so that should be fun.
This is what real estate is made of.
All right. As always, if you've got any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at podcast@westusa.com. We just have a couple of announcements this morning, so just bear with us. The squeaky mouse gets the cheese. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
All right, so Carlos, we are promoting your golf event. No, we appreciate it. This is a great event. A lot of agents going to be out there. A lot of agents getting foursomes, picking up foursomes, and bringing clients out there. So it's just a great deal and a great charity, great way to give back. So if you're interested in being part of Carlos Aceros' golf tournament, the Be Kind Foundation, it's going to be at Lone Tree Golf Club Saturday, June 20th. Just reach out to Carlos. All right, so Zillow Workspace. So Zillow's just coming out with all kinds of stuff, Nick.
Yeah, and so these 2 programs that are rolling out, the Showcase is obviously not new. We've been rolling Showcase for a while. We have a lot of agents that are seeing success with it. Their clients are demanding it now because of how many listings we're seeing in the marketplace. And so Showcase is not new. Preview is the new program, and Zillow has put the 2 programs in the same place called Zillow Workspace. It's causing a little bit of confusion from agents trying to use their Showcase system, but we wanted to teach everyone about the preview. If you haven't seen it, it is a new thing that Zillow is doing. And again, as we've talked about over and over and over again, your personal thoughts about Zillow, let's put those away and let's focus on our clients and putting their listings where they want them to be. And so we're doing an in-person training with Sam Horn. Sam's a great guy. He's been our rep for the last year or so. In person here at the North Phoenix office. We are going to do a virtual one as well, but we want you guys to come on down.
So the only reason I know this is because June 3rd is my wedding anniversary.
Yeah,
so that's either Tuesday, June 2nd or Wednesday, June 3rd.
It's Wednesday, June 3rd. Nikki is listening. So Nikki, we got to update that flyer.
This is 26 years. This is how I've made it. We got married in the year 2000, so it's really easy to keep track. Yeah. Okay.
So come on down Wednesday, June 3rd.
All right. If you're brand new to West USA, we have our next new agent orientation taking place this morning at 10:30. Not too late. We got a ton of other events going on. All you have to do is go to your dashboard, click on the calendar, and take a peek at what you're interested in. And if you're interested in joining us this morning at 10:30, not too late. Again, go to the calendar. Or if you're not with West USA, just go to westusacalendar.com and you can get signed up. All right, Todd, let's take it away. What's going on in the market?
Well, seeing that last weekend was Memorial Day, glad everybody made it home safe, for those that did anyway. Thanks for joining us.
Those that didn't make it home safe, God rest your soul.
Yeah, amen.
Not sure how that's.
Well, yeah, I guess I could have started that. Okay, so here. Hey, introduce
we have
Todd.
West USA Cares, though.
People should learn more about that. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going over the Greater Phoenix Metro market statistics for the week ending June 1st. Let's get right into it. This past week, 78 days closed on market. A month's supply of 3.41. Average absorption rate was 29.37. 773,953 was the average list price this past week, and 606,517 was the average sale price. The list price sale price retention came in at 97.16. Active inventory, well, you might remember I told you this was going to happen if we continued to have a lot of buyers in the marketplace, and so it has. Inventory has been shrinking. Pending, so inventory is currently at 25,732. Pending is at 4,371, and closed units for last month that is not yet washed or cleaned or verified, or allowing the end of the month to take place, because today's the first, so it's a catch over for the weekend. 7,557, but that's above last year. Taking a look at new listings, 1,648 taken, significantly less, so there's a little bit of a cool down. Days on market for active is at 92, and for closed at 78. Lower left-hand side, we have the price ranges. This is month to date, so it is exactly seeing what is taking place with inventory. So this is not the close. That'll be when we do the month-end report, sometime the end of the week. But for the active inventory, anything in red meant there was a contraction. So every price segment had a reduction in their active inventory. So 66.06% is representative of the prices under 600,000 in the MLS. 600 to 1 million is at 19.61, and $1 million and up at 14.33. So here's how it all worked out. Again, this is that sheet that everybody gets to be the expert. Why? Well, because we can compare. When you do the first showing that you've ever done, you had nothing to compare it to. By the time you did 2, you now had 2. By the time you did 4, you had 4 to compare. 20 years later, you've got a lot to compare. And that's really where inventory knowledge comes from. But new listings, 1,648 new takings versus 2,100 the prior period. But 1,600 is still pretty close to where we were 2 years ago. Taking a look at the active inventory, it's at 25,732, down from 26,508. We had 26,700 last year, so we do have lesser inventory than we had last year. 505 of those are in the coming soon category. 19,389 single-family detached, 2,086 new home construction properties, and 25,221 of the entire MLS inventory is in the non-distressed category. Looking at pending, sitting at 4,371. There were 4,371 active pending files this morning. 4,709 the week before. So remember, we've been talking for the last 3-4 weeks about, well, actually a little longer than that now, about 8 weeks. We've been talking about there being about 500 more people in the marketplace than there was last year. This isn't that far off. If you look at 4,371, you look at last year's numbers are 4,032. So we're still 350 ahead. But when you start to see that number drop back down and settle in is when, inventory is going to start going up. Closed inventory, closed units totally 7,557 versus 7,085 last year. So if it all works out, I think we'll maybe come close to hitting 8,000 units for the month of May, but we'll see exactly what takes place. So a month's supply, if we're looking at the exact numbers that we just mentioned, we're at a 3.41 month supply. So again, indicative of being in a seller's market. But again, when we talk about markets, sellers markets, buyers markets, it doesn't mean it's one way. It just means that there's less inventory than there was, and so it's being consumed faster. And when it's being consumed faster, it's just less selection. And again, typically what happens in those markets is prices go up. Then eventually, if it gets too competitive, you get into the multiple offer scenario. The other way, when you're in the buyer's market, is everything's just stale. Those of us who went through the semi-Great Depression back in 2006 and 7, 8, 9, you remember the fact that there basically was no inventory and people were paying. They were competing for those offers. It was crazy. So we are at 460 median sale price. We were at 470 the week before. We've been roughly about 450. So the market, the median sale price is just what's the middle number of what's closed this past week. So 460 was the soup du jour for the month, for this past week. But the numbers are 78 days. You can see a little bit of a slowing if we continue to watch that. That will help us understand, which direction we're headed. If it goes down, that means we're headed more. The buyers are buying more properties and consuming more. If it goes up, then typically there's a little stagnation happening. But in addition to all of the market movement, 97.16 was the list price to sale price retention, which basically meant that the sellers are still giving up almost 3%, 2.8%. Off of the list prices to whatever the accepted offer price was. This is MLS wide, everybody. So this is not just like on that last deal that was done. This is the MLS. So when you're going in and say you didn't need any concessions, you should be expecting almost a 3% negotiation off the list price. On the other hand, if you needed concession money, maybe Maybe you pay a little more to get your buyer more money. That's up to your client, but that's what this number means here is what's the average.
All right,
sales price.
so let me ask you a question. I mean, when you take a look at the numbers for the changes in new listings and pending, that's pretty significant.
It is.
Now, is this, in your opinion, an anomaly? It has or does it have something to do with the holiday, or is this indicative of something that you're maybe seeing on the horizon?
Easy answer is yes, because all those things play. But and that's why we try to talk about the trend. Everything's seasonal. So in the spring, we always talk about, more buyers in the marketplace. That's indicative. So just because there's more doesn't mean there's going to be a big change. It's kind of seasonal. And there is a stigmatization. So that was a good call, Mike. There is a stigmatization the moment you hit Memorial Day, because from Memorial Day through probably July 4th anyway, most of the executives and the people in the world are taking their vacations with their kids being out of school. So as a result, the market is usually
So the four of us
slower.
are here, so we're apparently not executive material enough.
Yeah, I don't see my kids until Christmas time.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get Todd one of those two-way reversible T-shirts. One that says we're in a buyer's market. One we're in a seller's
I would
market. And
love
depending
that.
on the number, you'll show up wearing that on your
I'd
chest.
actually wear that out. All right, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Matt. What's going on in the mortgage world, man?
Well, rates are doing their thing. Actually, week over week, they've some level of improvement, and I'll show that here. But you can see rates are still in the mid sixes if you're on a conventional loan, the low sixes if you're FHA or VA. So that's a good sign. But this is what I was talking about. That green run on the right-hand side on that right blue arrow, that's the run we had over the last week. So you're like, hey, that's okay. That's about the equivalent, because I always like to give dollars on a $400,000 home. That'd be like $3,000 improvement in the cost of the rate. So, a week ago to today, $400,000 house, and that rate would cost 0.75% less or $3,000 less. So, hey, now it's not where it was at the end of February, right? So like you gotta, the Iran drama of like oil up, oil down is kind of correlating directly with rates up, rates down. And so gosh, no wonder oil prices dropped a little bit. I think under $90 a barrel at the end of last week. And what do you know? Rates were at their best in a while. So like they're definitely correlated to that. Now, who knows where this will shake out, considering when you really break down the numbers, there were other things at play, like the unemployment numbers came out, the GDP numbers for Q2 came out less than kind of expected. So like all of those things kind of helped a little bit. As of this morning, rates are slightly worse. Again, you're going to see this ebb and flow as we figure this all out. We're hopeful. Let's put it that way. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some things that you may forget that we do or we know about that can help you with. But loan options, in my opinion, to help you grow your business as a real estate agent, buy before you sell. If you don't know what that is, my Calendly link's there for a 15-minute call. I'll be more than happy to explain it. Entrepreneur loans, how can that help you? Reverse loans. You find somebody that's downsizing. They have $300,000 in cash, but you can't find a $300,000 house. But what about a reverse loan to get you to make up the difference and they don't have a payment? Investor cash flow loans. Let's learn about that. If you're not familiar with those 4 top things, schedule a 15-minute call. I'm happy to share with you why I think those are important, and for you to know, not that you need to know how to originate a reverse loan or even do a buy before you sell, but know enough to be dangerous to have that conversation is super critical. So,
I would say this: it's easy for us to say that, hey, schedule a 15-minute call. You need to know this. You need to know this. You do need to know this. If you're an agent and you don't know what these are, you could be hurting your client. I feel like you have a fiduciary responsibility to understand what these loan products are. You might have had 3 clients in the last 12 months that you couldn't get qualified because you weren't familiar with these loan programs, and or your loan officer wasn't familiar with it. So I would definitely 100% take advantage of Matt's offer and learn about these products.
And when we're trying to have conversations, just real estate conversations with people without letting everybody know we're a realtor up front, when you know certain topics like this, you can start sharing about a person who used a particular loan product like this and blah, blah, blah. And they go, are you a lender or a loan officer? And you're like, no, I'm a real estate agent. Yeah. But again, it's that introduction. It's that conversation that, well, there's 16 realtors in a room. One of them's having this conversation. That's the one everybody's going to.
Love it. Thank you. I didn't have to even say anything. No. All right. Fast HELOC. I'm going to keep putting this up here because I think it's so easy, and people are getting their money really, really quickly. If you need something for, and again, non-owner occupied, second homes, you can allow for LLC vesting. There's no appraisals, no title under 400. They're super fast, 5-day closings. I've done a handful of them. They're easy and you get it done really quickly. And then, as always, there's my contact card. But take advantage of that. Calendly.com/Matt Baker Guild /15 minutes. That's
or just scan that QR code.
Or scan the QR code and just call me. Either.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Always
I just
appreciate
again, as an agent, I don't know. You gotta know, and you don't know what you don't know. Now you know what you don't know. So make sure now you know what you need to know. Yeah. That's a new T-shirt.
Whoa.
I'm on a roll.
Hold on.
Is this being recorded?
Preamble to the Code of Ethics says that realtors remain diligent on issues affecting real estate and willingly share the fruits of their study with others. This is that information. It's your job to remain diligent on knowing these products.
I don't even know what a preamble is, but let's move on to the three. I'm just kidding. Yeah,
that's why you're in the top 10 list.
All right, we're going to jump to the 3-pack. What buyers should know before making an offer. And this is really our responsibility as agents to prepare our buyers to just manage their expectations, understand the process, and really help you just kind of advance yourself in a position or to a position of being an expert. And the first one is list price is just part of the story. I love something that my partner always says when we're talking about land. Every piece of land, there's a story. If we're taking a look at a piece of land that has a structure on it, we're going back and trying to determine and decipher the story of what took place. What type of house is it? Who's living in there? What type of memories are there? When you're taking a look at a piece of land, you are in a position to start building the story and creating the story of what that piece of land is going to look like. And so every property that a buyer is considering, there's a story to that property. We just can't get hyper-focused on list price. List price is just part of the story, but yet we're so focused on it because we set up these subscriptions in the MLS and they get all these new listings and they're on Zillow and they're on Realtor.com and all they just see is an address and they see the price. Days on market is part of the story. We did a couple weeks ago, Nick and I did a thing of truly understanding days on market. The days on market, if you're not looking up the history of that property, the days on market, in my opinion, is meaningless. You have to take a look at the entire neighborhood. Like, how many days on market when that seller finally hit that right price did the property go under escrow? Were there any price reductions or offers that fell out of escrow? Those things are important. Those things are part of the story. Taxes, insurance premiums, and HOA dues can affect what you can afford. That is true. HOA, especially, just because your lender says you can afford X amount, because I get this all the time. People go, well, I'm just going to buy a townhome. Townhomes are so much cheaper. Well, there's a $650 HOA fee and so forth. And then home improvements, can break the bank when we're looking at a property. Yeah, here's the price. But it needs new flooring, it needs new paint, it needs a new roof, it needs, looking at the condition of the home is just part of the story. So it's important for us to get our buyers just away from just simply looking at the price point.
Yeah, I would imagine if somebody was, it's kind of like being relevant to what a buyer's interested in. But if you slow down and you have a conversation with a buyer, and you find out from the buyer what it is, I want a large backyard. And yeah, I think we talked about that once before. And you ask them, well, what does a large backyard look like to you? And you kind of figure that out. And then if you're the listing agent, that's one thing. But in this particular case, we're talking about buyers. And so from the buyer's agent's perspective, when you start to see another home and you've done a little research on it for your buyer, you can now come back and tell the story about that home to that buyer about how they get to use it And does it meet exactly, because we're just worried about, if my buyer says it needs to have these 10 things, I just look for those 10 things. Well, you're missing the boat. You've got to emotionally and connectively tie those things together. And this is a good point.
So at what point are you having this conversation with the buyer? Is this an upfront conversation that you're having to set expectation? Or are you looking at houses, getting them kind of to understand what the market looks like, and now now let's remember you're pre-qualified for this because of HOA fees, other things that are going to come into the cost. We are going to look for homes that are actually at this price point. Are you doing that before you start showing homes, or are you starting that conversation and continuing it through the process?
Yes, and yes, and yes. Yeah, I would say you always want to have the conversation beforehand because you want to set their expectation. You want your buyer to feel confident in you. And you want your buyer to feel like you understand the process and that you have their best interest in mind. And it kind of just helps them. Now all of a sudden, if you're my buyer and I've had this conversation, you're getting a listing, you know what one of the first things you're looking for? HOA dudes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to train you to take into account some certain things.
Here's a new one for that HOA dude, Mike. What about CFDs? Consumer facility districts. That's the new way for builders and developers, mostly developers, to pass along the infrastructure costs, the old impact fees that we used to pay years ago.
Yeah.
And they're running with a land again, so they're bonds against the housing, and they can modify and change those. So you have to be, you really do. And what about you doing business in, say, Sun City? You're trying to help somebody buy a home there, and they've got a $5,000 upfront capital improvement fee.
Well, the problem with that, Todd, and maybe it should be part of whoever does the MLS training classes here, is when you are uploading a document, you're putting the listing in. You can have the document either be public or private. Most of the time, we're not clicking public, so my clients aren't seeing the documents until after the point where now we're getting serious about a property. So that's just a little something.
Makes sense. Yep.
All right, second one, the strongest offer isn't always the highest offer. Sometimes there are more important things to a seller than just price. And this is one of the things that the conversation that I always have with my buyers, and one of the things that I always do before I submit an offer. I try never, if I can, to submit an offer without getting the listing agent on the phone.
Yep.
And if they don't answer the call, they don't answer the call. My text is really simple. Hey, this is Mike from West USA. I got a buyer interested in making an offer on 123 East Main Street. Have a few qualifying questions. If you can get back to me as soon as possible. Typically, that works. But even if the sun's getting ready to go down and I don't hear from that listing agent, I still got to submit the offer. But there are things. Oftentimes I find, like, post-possession. I know, Claudia's here, but, we're not huge fans of post-possessions. But oftentimes that is one of the most ideal scenarios for a seller. And sometimes that listing agent doesn't even know it or fails to put it in the private remarks section. And sometimes I've just won offers because I'm picking up the phone saying, what's important to your seller? First of all, is close, days on our close of escrow. How quickly can we close? Is that more important? Is price more important? Is your seller needing or requiring any type of post-possession scenario? And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, as a matter of fact. And then also, my buyers, God bless our lenders. It's sometimes hard to get our buyers to get all their documents in. Mm-hmm. This is a conversation that I have to have with my buyers. Listen, when I'm going to go to bat for you and I'm going to negotiate on your behalf, the strength of your PQ
totally
is one of the most important things, because I'm going to make the case and our lender's going to call on your behalf and make the case.
Yeah, the fastest point that someone can get their prior to doc conditions done, then the only thing left is the appraisal and making sure nothing's changed in your credit history at close of escrow. So those are the kind of things that you really want. And from a seller's point, Mike, I mean, my wife and I just closed on our house a month ago, and our new house we're going to close on that next week. But we had, a couple of months that we had to rent a furnished rental and put all of our stuff in storage. But that's not really the point. The point comes during the negotiation. We were like, well, we want to close early, but we want you to allow us to give us a post-possession. So here's the thing that most people, they hear pre or post-possession because the law says, our 428-1101K says that you have to tell the consumer, you have to recommend to your client that they seek legal, tax, accounting, and financial advice from their professionals. That's a law that you have to do that. So we get all our we get all frustrated with that process. It is one of the most powerful negotiating things. There, as long as everybody goes into it eyes open with proper legal representation, meaning just having had that conversation, then it's not a bad thing. And you can really help a seller in a situation pick your offer, even if your offer isn't the highest financial one.
I just tell my clients, you want to do post-possession, call Todd Menard, 602-942-4200.
I'll walk him through it.
He will scare you out of it, and he will bore you out of it. You'll go, I am so not interested in doing this.
The only one that bothers me is pre-possession, because if the buyer can't get their nuts in a row at the end, then now we got a big issue because you got an occupant in the house and the seller can't get their money. But the other way around is a potentially a brilliant tool.
So this point is for you, Nick. The strongest offer isn't always the highest.
Yeah.
The strongest person in the room isn't always the tallest.
Correct, because I am the strongest person
or
in the
the
room right now.
loudest.
That's facts.
So,
I
really
just-
quickly,
go ahead.
though, real quick, since we're talking about the pre-possession, post-possession conversation, it's not that we don't like it. You have to, like Todd said, have a lot of legal advice behind that. We do have a form for that, guys. We've created it. It is on your dashboard. Ding, ding. Thank you. I just love when I can do that. I see that. It's like one of my favorite parts. So make sure you're looking on your West USA dashboard. We have that form there for both of the forms there for a reason. Lots of agents want to get creative and create a small lease, and there might be some additional terms there, but the pre-possession and post-possession forms have already been vetted. We've talked about it, we've reviewed it, and it's something that we strongly recommend.
I push back. If you and Dean are on call and you get a choice of two calls, Mike's on line 1 with post-possession, pre-possession questions, and Nick's on line 2 with a question on how to write an addendum. Which one are you going with? Yeah, exactly. All
I
right,
can
Nick.
neither confirm nor deny that the broker team has ever talked about your calls, Mike.
Yeah, we don't answer your calls. Everybody else's we do. I don't want to get too stuck on the post-possession, pre-possession part of this. I want to make sure that we're hitting home the point. What we should be doing to provide the best fiduciary for our buyers and sellers is having conversations with one another. We have a newer agent to West USA, and they picked up a decent listing, and they were very excited with their new listing being at the dollar that it was. The amount of phone calls they were receiving from agents saying, I'm going to have the best offer you're ever going to see. Your sellers are going to love my offer. I can't wait. Okay, submit it. And then they never got the offer.
Sure.
But what the conversations when the agent would let me know, what are your sellers looking for? He was be honest with them because the sellers told him, this is what we're looking for. Totally. And so the comments he was getting back from these buyers agents that actually were truly going to submit an offer was, I've never spoken to someone who's so honest and forthcoming about what the seller can do or what you can do. They kept saying I'm going to get you this offer. And he kept saying, you're not giving me an offer. These are my sellers that I'm working for. Yep. So if you're truly working for your sellers, you're not hiding things. You're not trying to be cloak and dagger. You're trying to present the best for both to win. And here's Mike's point. See, this is how we do. You tee it up, or I tee it up, and you knock it out.
All right, the seller and the listing agent are people too. So everyone involved in the transaction has emotions, is emotional. And I always love these agents that go on Facebook and complain about other agents. They think that they're the only people on the face of the planet that aren't emotional. If you're complaining on Facebook, you are an emotional baby. I'm just going to have to say, if you're griping on these forums, maybe you're the one who's emotionally
We just
challenged.
increased our readership with that, listenership. That's good.
I'm just
An
saying.
emotional baby.
Yeah. That might be a bumper sticker.
That's another T-shirt. Dude, we are going into the T-shirt business.
So when you're asking the seller these, how do you talk to us about number 3?
Yeah, so everyone involved in the transaction has emotions. So it's important to understand that. The seller has their motivations to selling. It's one of the questions I try to get from the listing agent is, hey, why is your seller moving? What is motivating them to move? That might go back to me preparing the best offer that there is. And just understanding what their motivations are. I'm always looking into the seller's equity position. I'm always going on Monsoon. What did they buy it for? What was their down payment? How long have they owned it? I can go into the calculator function in Armless and amortize that, and I can get a decent idea of how much equity that they're sitting on. I can most of the time tell whether they've taken some sort of second out or whatever the case is. Because that tells us, going back, that tells a story. If there is no equity, they just bought it 6 months ago, lowballing them and whatever is not going to get us anywhere. And then, of course, we talk about it so much. Looking into the listing agent's experience, how long have they been licensed? How many transactions have they done? Am I going up against a bulldog or am I going up against a rookie? Because, be frank, I'm going to treat if you're a rookie and you haven't done this very often, I'm going to treat you differently than that I would treat Claudia.
I'll tell you what.
I'd run from Claudia. I'd be like, oh God, no.
No, but I'll tell you what. We've had some new agents come aboard that have done their homework. They really have. They've attended the training. They know how to handle themselves. And we've also had some agents that have been veteran agents that maybe haven't done a deal in a minute, haven't looked at the documents, read the documents, and they're struggling. So that can always be, don't judge. What do they say? The sheep in wolf's clothing or whatever, the book by its cover. Those sayings, you just
I hate
gotta
that saying.
Do you?
I do, because they say don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not cracking open the book unless I like the cover. It's like dating.
Well, no, it's true. One look at you, and are they going to say, does he have all the information? Does he have the knowledge and experience? They may not know.
I'm deep and charming and emotionally stable, but my wife wouldn't have given me a shot if I wasn't as handsome as I am.
So I just want to jump in real quick. As we're dealing with people, I want to remind everybody, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. It's Hanlon's razor. It is the mindset that we go into situations, conversations, assuming the other person did not make us angry, frustrated, or upset on purpose. They did it on accident. So we assume ignorance over malice. When you are dealing with a cross-sale agent and they don't call you back on your timeline, remember it's your timeline, not theirs. The better you set expectation in the beginning of these conversations, no matter whom the party is, your timelines merge and they become each other's, and then you want everyone to win. If you are coming as an attacker on the defensive, you're not going to be working to win. Or everyone to win. You're looking for you to win, and that's the emotion. It's not about you winning. It's about your client getting the best deal and going through the rest process together.
So one thing that I heard, and I want to make sure everybody's aware of it, if you're a listing agent, don't ever share your seller's motivation with a buyer. Or a buyer's agent. Ever. No, it's a violation of your fiduciary duty unless you have it in writing that you can do that.
Doesn't mean I'm not asking.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just making sure I started off by saying if you're a listing agent. So that's a really good position to come from. And then the other piece on this is, yes, if you, the more, I always say this way, if the deal doesn't go together, I missed something. I never say the other agent was bad.
All right, 3 things buyers should know before making an offer. All right, well, Claudia has already interjected herself, so no need to introduce her. So today we're going to talk about open houses, but I woke up and was scrolling through Facebook, and I found this post on our Arrowhead office from one of our agents, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about. So here's the question, because we've all been in this situation.
Yes.
So escrow has not been opened. My client wants to cancel due to issues with the quality of the build, air traffic noise, and neighborhood findings. Now, there's been no inspection. So the listing agent, or the buyer's agent, our agent, sent the listing agent a notice disclosure stating, buyer hereby elects to cancel the contract during the inspection period as the surrounding conditions, So AI told the agent to use the notice disclosure, which I'm impressed with AI knowing what a notice disclosure is, rather than using the BINSR, because the assumption was I can't use the BINSR to cancel the contract because I didn't have an inspection done.
Okay, so number one, AI can be a benefit for a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. If you have the the agent layer that we have been familiar with, and we do have some connections to help you get that. It said the same exact thing. They're correct. So notice disclosure can work because if you read the contract, it says notice, right? However, the proper vehicle that we would always advise during due diligence is going to be the Binzer form. It's in your AAR library. Again, it specifically is for due diligence period, and it's automatic that the earnest money is requested to be returned. That is the important part of this, right?
Yep.
You need to follow your contracts. I love that they tried to call in and get the help, but I do turn my phone off, especially at 10 o'clock at night. But I was really, really happy that they called back first thing this morning. I did speak with the agent, gave him that advice. Again, the Binzer is there for a reason. I understand the notice disclosure. I understand they didn't do a physical inspection. However, if you read the contract, physical, non-physical, if you take a look at that buyer advisory, have you read that lately? Take a look at that form. It talks about
I've only
everything.
gotten through the preamble.
Well, I heard you don't know what preamble is. Yeah, you want to take a look at that document. I always just gave it to my buyer clients and said, here's this, please take a look. I need the last page signed. That's receipt that you've reviewed it or have a copy of it. I never really went into it much, and that's shame on me as an agent. I'm embarrassed. Because if you read through that, it has a lot of great tools in there for buyers. It is there for a reason. So yes, my answer to you guys on Facebook, I'm going to post it and I'm going to say, use the Binzer. The Binzer is a preferred vehicle for this due diligence period.
So the overriding question was, so in order for me to use the Binzer to cancel the contract, an inspection is not required.
No, it's not required.
That's
Physical
really
and-
what people were.
Physical and non-physical. So yes, it's not required to do an actual physical inspection.
Yeah, you have to be careful about using AI. Even the attorneys, are cautious. There's a story that our CEO can tell about that. But the issue is prompting, and the issue is it doesn't really know the law, and it really doesn't. If you were to do something that your broker said do this, and you used AI and did something other than what your broker told you to do, there's a possibility if that ever developed into an issue at any time through that process, you could be out of the loop and having to represent yourself and get your own attorney because you failed to do what the broker told you to do.
Well, then just hire ChatGPT to represent you. It's all good. If it got you into the mess, have it get you out of the mess.
That's the question. Who holds the liability? AI is not going to hold any liability, right? So you need to be cautious.
I think that's coming in the next 10 years.
Good
I
luck.
do. I'm waiting for those lawsuits.
It's like blaming a video game. Good luck.
Okay.
Good luck.
All right. Well, let's talk about open houses. And we
Yes,
should
sir.
make that into a video game.
Oh, wow. Wow.
No.
Oh, a real estate video game.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then give them options. Would you
Yeah,
be
we'll
interested
have
in that?
AI develop it, Nick.
I think training would be good for that. Okay. So
Training.
yes, open houses. So some people love them, some people hate them. I've always loved them. I really, really have. I go into it with a positive attitude. Maybe even if I don't get anybody come and visit, I try to be positive because open houses do work. They work for a lot of different reasons. I have one great story. Brand new agent at West USA reached out to a listing close to where she lived. She held it open, had 2 visitors stop by, and got 2 listings out of that open house with a whopping list price. I've never had a listing that high. So it was pretty amazing. The fact that, number one, she was hungry enough to go out there, reach out to a West USA agent, offer to do open house because it was right by her home, so convenient, and she was able to land those 2 listings. That's amazing work.
It's amazing. So then it goes back to, because I agree with you, I think there are 2 types of agents as far as open houses go. Agents that think open houses are horrible, that they're a waste of time because they've never gotten anything from it. And then there's the agents that say, hey, open houses, I love open houses because I'm successful at them. So that means if you feel like open houses are a waste of time and you're not getting anything out of them, it's possible that you might be doing them wrong, and
Correct.
that you're missing some components because she just didn't get those 2 listings because she put an open house sign. She was doing something right whether it was presentation or conversations and so forth.
You know, the number one reason why real estate agents don't make it is because when they wake up in the morning, they either don't know, don't want to go, or don't go find their next buyer or seller. And they don't know how to create conversations that we have spent 13 years explaining to people and giving them tools to be able to go do.
It's another T-shirt. Repeat that. I've
No,
never
I'm
heard
not
you
doing
say
it
that.
again. So the next thing is going to be, though, NAR. There was an article in the Realtor magazine at one point where a brand new agent went to work for another company, was drowning, came to work for the second company, and the agent and the broker told them, "Listen, do you know how to hold an open house?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, go do open houses every single day until your volume of business equals enough to support your income that you're looking for." And so she did. At the end of the first year, all I remember was her first name was Susan. At the end of the year, she sold 135 properties. This wasn't in a good time. This was in a typical market like we're in right now.
Right. And so open houses are great tools to try to showcase that property. But it's also a good time for you to practice. Practice speaking to visitors. Practice going through properties. I say it all the time during our React training. I think the agents are probably sick of it. But no one teaches you how to describe a property. No one says to walk in and say, "Oh, look at the coffered ceilings. Look at the pendant lighting. Look at the quartz countertops." Nobody tells you that those executive height sinks are higher and that's an upgrade. It's a good idea to go visit the new home builders. They have a lot of those amenities listed for you. It's like, great, you did the homework for me. You should be doing that at your open houses. So I did want to get into these things before we go off tangent, because I know you like to kind of go off the highway a little bit.
Yeah, Todd.
What? No, Todd's on the highway. He's straight as, yeah. Okay, so be strategic. So that is really important. When you're picking your open house, look for properties, number one, that are listed with West USA, right? You want to make sure that you are working with other agents within our brokerage. That is the cleanest way to go about it. Now, I'm going to talk about some other options when we get to the second slide here. But if you're strategic enough, you can find a property, go look on MLS, listings that are offered through West USA, reach out to those fellow agents, ask the question, but look at where the listings lie. Is it going to be difficult for my signage to be seen as I'm going into the property? We call it ingress and egress. You want to make sure that you're being cognizant of that. If you have a property that's stuck out,
4 turns off of a major
right,
street.
it's not going to work. It's going to be very difficult to get public, because not only do you list it on MLS that you're having an open house, because what happens when you put anything on MLS, it syndicates out. It does a great job for us. So then you know what? Zillow will show that you have open house. It's going to be out there for the public to see. People are driving around, they pull up the neighborhood, Zillow comes up and it says, "Oh, look, there's open house here," right? Or if they're following you on Facebook or whatnot, post it on your socials, put it out there. They're not going to come visit. It's not like, build it and they will come. You have to let them know that you're having open house, number one. So being strategic is really important. We cover that on our Flex MLX class in React. Leslie Del Maestro with American Title does a great, phenomenal job of guiding our agents. So that's number one in being strategic. Make sure you have that mapped out. Don't wait till the night before. Plan it out. That goes the same with publicizing. If you're going to go and do a neighborhood, knock on the doors, hand them a flyer. "Hey, good morning. Introduce yourself. I wanted to let you know I'm holding an open house on Saturday. In case you see something, it's just me. If you want to come by and compare, you want to, send your best friend who you would love to live next to you, have them come visit." It's a great way for you to get to know the neighborhood, because if you plan it right and do open house at that property every weekend, because it's nice and convenient for you, right? You obviously choose something within your area. Then they're going to get to know you, your face, your brand, every time they turn into their home. Are they going to remember the listing agent per se? Probably not. Sorry, unless they do a really good job of marketing that they listed, they're on the market and whatever. But they're going to see your signs every weekend for 4 weeks to a month. That's great. Even if you don't get the people coming in, you work on your business, right? So there's lots of things you can do. So strategic planning is very important in open house.
They used to say, tell the 10 people across the street and the 4 people on either side of the property that you're holding it open. Leslie Del Maestro will give you a whole marketing strategy on how to get more people attending your open house. through some really pretty cool HGTV style campaigns. But again, when you're knocking on the door, if all you're doing is handing them a flyer, hi, I'm holding an open house, leave, then that's it. But if you're excited about holding the open house, number one, so go in there looking excited when they come to the door. And then also start asking them some other, if you feel that they're the kind of person that you could have another question, maybe be lucky to ask another question, say, it would really help me understand your neighborhood better if you could tell me what were the reasons why you moved here. And then if they start talking to you, you might be able to say, how's the HOA? Are there any issues in the neighborhood? Would you, if you had a chance to buy a home in here today, would you do it? And you can learn so much more. And that makes them want to call you to sell the house, their house, if they're interested in thinking about selling. Because you're the realtor that didn't just go, oh, here's my flyer. I'm going to be holding it open.
Now, in the past, I picked up a really nice Palm
Am I
Valley.
allowed to talk? I didn't know. I didn't know whether I was in a
it's our
timeout
show.
or what I was.
We have some really quickly. So I did do a Palm Valley listing a while ago, years ago. And I was holding an open house. So I walked the neighborhood and I handed out flyers and I spoke to neighbors. And one neighbor opened her door. She was very, very nice. I said, so how long have you been living in the neighborhood? Because she was she liked to talk. And she said, oh, I've been here 16 years, but my daughter moved, she moved on to college. And, we've been kind of thinking, the house is kind of big. I said, yeah, I see that you have the biggest model here in the neighborhood. I said, have you considered possibly downsizing, getting that pool that you want or something? And she said, you know what? I hadn't thought of it, but that's a great idea. She's like, could we set up an appointment? We sure did.
No.
And we got her into that beautiful home in an adult community with all the bells and whistles. So it worked out for her. But go ahead, Mike, please speak.
No, I was just kidding. But I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
As far as time, like what's the optimum amount of time to hold an open house?
Okay, so I'm a fan. I've always done 10 to 2. I've always done that time period. People are leaving their home or coming back from sports or whatnot. I'm not a fan of holding a 2-hour open house. That to me makes no sense whatsoever. You want to go and give it time. Again, that time is not just for the property, but it's for you, yourself, and your business as well. Put in a 5-hour day. Not a bad idea. What about you, Mike?
I would say, this is supposed to be a full-time job. If I hired you, I'm not letting you work 4 or 5-hour days. And my feeling is if you're going to do an open house, be out there all day, especially if you don't have anything else to do. I get it if you got showing appointments and so forth. But if it's either that or being at home or in the office, I don't care whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd rather you be at doing an open house than being in the office if you don't have anything specific to do. Because anything that you're doing at the office, typically you could do at your open house.
Being a radio show host, Mike, let me ask you this.
We work 2 hours a day.
No. Does the broadcasting network make more money if they sell ads during drive time or during the middle of the day?
Drive time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So think about this when you're holding your open house. It matters what day you're doing it, and not necessarily Monday, Tuesday, but maybe weekday versus weekend. And so if you're holding a house open on a Saturday or Sunday, you have to take things into consideration that are going on, like church people on Sunday. Like, for instance, Saturday, to your point, Claudia, in the middle of the day always seems to do great. You'd never want it during the week. You'd never really want to do it in the morning because everybody's late to work. So nobody really wants to go to work. So that's not really a very good time. However, people that drop their kids off to school have a little bit of freedom in their life starting at about 9:30. And certainly they're going to do certain things. So then maybe 9:30. And then when do you stop? Well, most people stop around 3 o'clock because you go, oh, my day's almost over, blah, blah, blah. Well, what about all the people driving home from work? That is the point. That's the time that they can actually go, I'm not really ready to go home to my wife and the 5 kids going crazy. Maybe I'll just stop into this, open house and take a look.
I'd be inviting, now that I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't personally do it, but I'd be inviting all the moms to come down Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 9 to 11 for celebrity yoga.
Yeah.
I've got a celebrity yoga instructor.
Oh, leave it to Mike. No, but even during the week, I had
days of our lives.
Days of his life. Right? So I had an agent that was doing them weekdays from 3 to 7 p.m. and that he was catching a lot of people coming home from work. curious people in the neighborhood that, oh, you know what? Hey, I'm going to stop by. It was a great idea. And he did, again, he got some good clients out of it.
Really quickly, I want to say we started this off with being strategic, and I 100% agree with you. But what I would challenge agents to do, because you're going to pick up a listing someday that's going to be a challenge to do an open house on. So once you get a few open houses under your belt, and I 100% agree, those first few, you need to set yourself up for success the best that you possibly can. But once you start to figure out your flow, how you do open houses, and you start to see success, try a challenging location. So if and when you pick up that listing, that is 4 turns off a major road, you've got experience and you've got know-how and you've done it a couple of times. So don't just say no to those at first, yes, but once you get experience, try a challenging open house.
So we did talk about horror stories in open house, so I will bring up a little bit of that. So in being strategic, I was not. I was not. Shocker. I did an open house in a wonderful community in Goodyear, adult living, and I wasn't versed in the property or the community very well. But I was there, gung-ho, had my open house, had my, chocolate-covered strawberries, waters, all my little tchotchkes. Not a lot. I'm not a fan of covering the countertop. You're there to show the house. But I had some things there. Somebody walked in, and they asked me what model it was. I was like a deer in headlights. I did not know the model. And in that community, they have their information. They do their homework. That visitor made me feel so small and so ill-prepared that, yes, I went back after that open house and I learned everything I could because I did not want that to happen again. So that's part of, knowing the property.
I'm just coming up with some great ideas. So
I can see you taking notes over there.
I've got a ton of them. My kid he's attending school outside of Tucson. So every time we're driving down to Tucson, there's those signs that say drive X amount of miles further to see the thing. And you're wondering what the thing is. Yeah. You need to have the thing in your open house. Yeah. Come see the thing. I don't know whether you got go get a giant iguana or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, back to knowing the property. That is a great tool for AI. If you are through a house and you aren't all up on appliances and different countertops, utilizing your ChatGPT, your Claude, whatever, taking photos of that and asking it to give you a general overview of what this is. Now, I've not asked it the plan specific to my house, but I did run it through the ringers on Saturday asking for county assessor information, public information about my specific home. And this is what I do on the weekends, guys. And so it was able to pull a tremendous amount of information, but I didn't ask plan. So it is something, to your point, having a longer open house, it gives you that time before you start or while you're sitting there waiting for people to show up, taking pictures of all the appliances, taking pictures of the countertops, asking it to give you some fun buzzword stuff that you can post on social media. Like it gives you that, the property, and then tell me about the area. What are some hot spots, some restaurants, things that people like to do? You can do that from the home now. You don't have to be out and asking the questions. You should, but you don't have to.
If you're working in a what they call housing for the older persons, which is 55 plus or even a 45 plus community, those people, to your point, Claudia, you said it, and I want to make sure everybody heard it, not unheard it, that these people have done their homework. They know the models, and there's only like a limited number of models in each one. Of course, where did your parents used to be down there?
Pebble Creek.
That's where it was.
Pebble Creek has like 9 models, so you got to. But it seems that there's 1 or 2 that resell the best.
If you are marketing in Pebble Creek, Sun City, any active adult community, I think I came up with this idea this weekend. Don't ask me why or how, but you need to have your own personally branded bingo daubers.
That's a good idea.
These people carry dauber holsters to show
they go.
Yeah,
because they do double-handed.
You know what else they do a lot? Pickleball.
Yeah.
They're way into pickleball, and that's great, being active. But so we can joke about a lot of things here.
Pickleball with your face on it. Pickleball racket with your face.
That's a great idea, Todd. Smash it. I think that should be part of our 40th anniversary celebration gift. I did want to talk about safety first because it is really important. When you're holding open house, you just want to keep the eye line of exit available. Never back yourself into a corner or against a wall. You want to be able to move. I don't want to scare people, but it's very, very important that you think about your personal safety. If it's a 2-story home, do not follow them up all the way to the second story. Don't follow them into a bedroom where you can't get out. You should always be closest to the door. Those things are important to know because you don't want to be stuck in that situation. If you can have a buddy come visit you at open house, my parents, God love them, for 29 years, they have stopped and visited me at every open house that I do. They do try to bring me food, and I'm sorry, but eating a chorizo burro in an open house is not a good idea because of it smells. But they come visit me every time. Invite a lender to come with you. I'm sure Matt and some of his crew would be happy to sit with you and do some quick pre-quals while you're sitting there, because that is extra ammo for you. You want to be able to have someone there with you, even if you team up with another agent. Now that brings up another scenario and another little thing here. Communicate. If you are going to be holding an open house for another West USA agent, make sure that you talk about it. What's going to happen to those leads that come in? Do they belong to you? Do you owe them a referral? Have that conversation. You don't want it to come up after the fact and then there's bad blood going on, right? You want to make sure that you talk about it and have that spelled out and you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I just have to tag on that real quick. If you're an agent, not the listing agent, and you're there to, in your head, find buyers or potential candidates, customers, potential real estate clients, you have to remember you are a listing agent when you're holding that home open because your brokerage has that listing. They're already under an exclusive relationship with them. So you can't walk in, let somebody, if it's an unrepresented buyer, you can't say, well, that's okay, I would represent you and the listing broker would represent the seller. You can't do that. You know that by now. But just remember that all of your actions, pretend there was a video camera in that house, and all of your actions have to promote the seller. And you have to demonstrate that home like a new home salesperson would a spec home.
Yep, and that brings us to the next thing. So there are some broker concerns. If you want to go ahead and click on that for me.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So there are broker concerns that we want you to be aware of. Lots of people will say, oh, let's do wine and cheese open house, and that sounds great and all. But if something should happen when they leave that open house and you have made available to them an alcoholic beverage, where's the liability going to lie? Again, I don't like to scare people, but that's literally my job. My job is liability and compliance. And so you guys have to be careful out there. We say do not do it. Do not provide alcohol when you're doing open houses. It's never going to be a great idea, right? Can you do a contract while someone's under the influence, Mike?
You're not supposed to.
The answer is no, buddy. It's no. It is no.
That's a hard line on that one.
I got a funny story for afterwards.
We'll talk about that on Friday
he
at
didn't do
Kimbara.
it.
Well, we're having a drink.
Thursday.
Thursday. Sorry, Thursday. Yeah, we're not going anywhere Friday. Thursday. So that is something to take into account. Implied agency is huge. So this is something that Dean really wanted me to make sure you guys were aware of. When people walk into open house, they are visitors. The minute you start giving them any advice, you're implying your agency there. When they say, oh, is it a good time to buy? Or, oh, what do you think about this? Or I talked to my lender and he's offering me this interest rate. Number one, you're not a lender. Number two, if the minute you start acting like you're representing them or helping them in some way, you are. So make sure you're being cautious of that. Again, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you're not cautious. Invites and flyers. Dean also wanted me to make sure you guys are aware. Broker needs to approve some of those. You can get creative and make something snazzy, but you want to make sure that you have all the required things to meet compliance. So email it over to advertising@westusa.com so we can give it a quick sanity check. Owners open. Owners can hold open house, but they cannot use the brokerage signs, the directional signs that have our brokerage on it. And they must disclose to the visitors that they are the owner. It's an owner's open house. They do not represent the brokerage. Okay? Yes, West USA agents can hold other brokerage listings open with permission and clear signage. When a visitor walks in, the first thing you say is, welcome to open house. My name is Claudia Ewen. I'm with West USA Realty. I'm doing a courtesy open house here. And then you can start having that conversation. Are you represented by a buyer? Have you signed a buyer broker agreement? Great. No? Okay. I would love to show you around. If you have any questions, or if they say they have an agent, great. Take a look around. If you have any questions, please let your agent know and they can reach out to me. Make sense?
I didn't know that.
awesome. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's actually the cleanest agency, representation relationship is if you hold another broker's open listing.
Yeah. So, and other brokerages cannot hold West USA listings open. We do not allow that at our brokerage for lots of reasons, but there is compliance there. There is liability. There is cost. We wouldn't want to open up our sellers to more liability or to any extra cost for compensation, because then who works for the seller? That is too ambiguous there. We don't allow that.
So, but we allow other brokerages to get into
Yeah.
that. I love it.
If again, we do our homework. All we can do is run and help our agents how we do. I do want to shout out to Ms. Gail Oliaga out of the Scottsdale office. Thank you for listening. We had a great conversation this weekend. Had a wonderful weekend on call. I love it when you guys use us as a soundboard like we are supposed to be. And you guys kept me busy, and I enjoyed every single conversation with you guys. I invited you all to listen to the podcast. So shout out to all you great agents at West USA. And if you haven't heard, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. And I'm excited to come out on Thursday and talk to you guys and maybe have a little bit of wine or something. But it's going to be a
don't
great
write any
time.
contracts.
But don't write any contracts.
Yeah, at the company event.
All righty.
Claudia is still on call until Wednesday, so please feel free to continue to call.
I'm just bringing a whole folder full of buyer broker agreements on Thursday and just walking around and having people sign them.
Be ready at those open houses. Have your buyer brokers. Have your. I like a template on transaction desk. Quick send out buyer broker agency. We can have that conversation. I'll show you that home next door if this one doesn't fit your needs.
All right, Claudia, great stuff. I do need to put together like a 3-pack or a class. I don't do very many open houses anymore. I've done a ton in my time, and so I'm not as familiar with how to overcome these Ring doorbells and the speakers and where people aren't actually, they're talking to you through the speaker. So if anyone's got any ideas, I would love to hear it.
I might do a video open house scenario. I mean, they're all different, but that might be a great way to train and to learn a little bit.
All right. And then next week, I wrote down a ton of just crazy open house ideas. So next week on the 3-pack, I'm going to go through some of them. Claudia, thank you. Great information as always. Leave everybody with the quote of the day: a comfortable, beautiful place, Nick, but nothing ever grows there. Boom. Go out and sell a home.